Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about vaginal birth versus cesarean birth. I have had both a vaginal birth and a C-section. I definitely preferred the vaginal birth. C-section, it was really scary. My first son was a vaginal birth. It was picture perfect to me. It took like, I think 36 hours or something. It was a long labor, but long labors run in my family, so I kind of knew to expect that. So he was a vaginal birth, and when I got there, because it was my first time giving birth, they gave me the option to get, I think it's like oxytocin. So for my first birth, they were waiting for the person who does the epidural to come up, and they gave me, I think it was fentanyl until then. Oh my gosh, I wish I didn't even take that because it was terrible. After that I just started puking and I couldn't stop puking until I gave birth, so it was just terrible. But other than that, like, it was a great birth, so I can't complain. I did get the epidural for both of my births. I don't really see the point in going through like unnecessary pain, especially because, like, why would I do that? That'd be foolish on my part, I think anyways. So for me, vaginal birth is definitely what I preferred. The reason why is because it's better for your child as well. When you have the contractions and stuff, that pushes mucus out of their lungs and out of their nasal passages. So actually, if you were vaginally born instead of cesarean, you actually are less likely to have respiratory issues, things like that. There's a lot of benefits for giving birth vaginally, and that was the main reason I wanted to give birth vaginally, even for my second son. However, for me, I was in labor for like a week with my second son. I was breached and they were super busy at the hospital, and we were an hour away from the hospital, and since it was my second birth, they kept sending me home, and it was so terrible. It was awful. But your birth is not going to be that way, okay? Just remember that. I want you to remember that. Your birth will not be that way. And what I should have done differently was I should have said, listen, I'm not comfortable and you should really induce me. But I saw that they were really busy and I didn't want to be a bug, and that was foolish on my part, and I should have spoke up and advocated for myself. So basically, after like a week of like some on and off labor, like, it was terrible. But what happened is when I went in, the contractions were really heavy. And what it was he was breached and he was in a weird spot. So they had this little monitor that they hook onto his hair, and it measures his heartbeat, and his heartbeat kept falling. So they were prepping me and saying, Michelle, you might have to have a C-section. And I was like, yeah, whatever, do whatever you need to do. For both my births, I did not make a birth plan because, like, which may have been naive of me. But in my personal opinion, like, I don't want to sit there and think about all the bad things that could happen. I have a lot of anxiety, just like every day anyways, so I don't want to add on to that. So I wasn't going to look into like all the things that could go wrong. I was just going to go in there and go with the flow, and whatever they needed to do, they were going to do. And these are people that have given birth or like have helped birth babies a lot of times. So I was putting my faith in the medical industry. And to be honest, here in Canada, like, I should have known better because it's just been so terrible. The last few years, like, even when I was in nursing, like, it was bad then, and then COVID hit. Like, I was so fortunate because my son, like, because I was pregnant with him, I basically got out of work right before COVID hit, and I was fortunate for that because things just went so downhill, and they were already so downhill in the medical industry. So my second birth went not as well because, like, they were busy, they were overstaffed. Here in Canada, our medical is just falling through the floor, and it was just not an experience that I wanted. So what happened is when they were doing the C-section, everything went fine. Everything was usual, but when they took him out, they didn't clear his lungs well enough or his nasal cavity. And like, people, like a couple of nurses had said to me afterwards when we were back on the mat leave, they were like, yeah, that doctor's kind of an idiot. And they were shocked he didn't end up in the NICU because he was like so congested and wasn't breathing properly. So that was really upsetting to hear for me personally, because I was just sitting there and I was like, oh my gosh, it's like he's not breathing right. And like me and my husband had to tell them 3 times that he wasn't breathing right to get them to like actually do something. So it was intense, and obviously because of the C-section, he didn't get the contractions that would clear that mucus for him. So there is a huge difference between Warren and Walton. So Walton is the C-section, Warren is the vaginal. Walton has had to go to the hospital like 2 different times. Actually, he had to go to the hospital 3 days in a row because he kept getting croup. And it was not good for him. So it was 3 days of like, I was pretty nervous for him. But he did really well. He pulled through just fine. And they did say that he probably does have asthma. He had to get like a puffer and everything. But Warren, on the other hand, even when he was sick with it, he was just puking, but he was fine. He didn't need to go to the hospital. I just had to give him some medication and he was like doing fine. But Walton, he didn't handle it nearly as well. So that is something that is very concerning to me. I don't like to see that. It does make me nervous just because like, airway, you're done, clearly, right? So anyway, so yeah, it wasn't the experience I wanted for my second birth, but that's okay because you don't get to choose. You really don't get to choose the experience that much. Like, if you need a C-section, you need a C-section. The recovery was not that bad. Extremely high pain tolerance, so I didn't really feel anything with the C-section. Like, I was up within like 5 hours walking around, so it was fine for me. However, you can get a lot of pain. And afterwards, like, I won't show you my C-section scar at all, just because like I'm a little like, that's my body. I'm a little embarrassed, and I don't like my tummy that much anymore, because when they cut through that much muscle and that much tissue and everything, like, I do find I do have like a little bit of a pouch now, where like my stomach was always flat even with the vaginal birth. But that just, it really tore some muscles, and like just the certain medications they had to give me to like really freeze up my body. I did notice like my leg muscles were like completely flabby for like a whole month, and it was really weird. But regardless, if it's C-section or vaginal, I think the most important thing to remember is that you have a beautiful child here with you, even if it doesn't go exactly the way you want. And you can be upset and you can be frustrated about that. Those are normal feelings. I was definitely upset and frustrated. I definitely wish that I would have had a vaginal birth for my second. I would have preferred it for my body. Every surgery that you have is a risk, and it's not something I would do willy-nilly. But I think the most important thing for me to remember personally is I have 2 beautiful sons here, and I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful that even though things went wrong, and maybe back in the day I wouldn't have lived or Walton wouldn't have lived, here I am and here's my son. So I don't want you to be scared, because it's okay if things don't go right exactly in a birth. The most important thing is that you live and the baby lives, and you are going to, and your baby's going to. I don't want you being spooked by this, because you're going to go through it, and it's going to be intense, but it's going to be the best thing you've ever done. Giving birth is not that bad. People like to talk it up, and you're going to be able to get through it. I promise you. You are going to be so shocked at how amazing your body is, and I'm so happy for you. I hope that you enjoy motherhood. You're going to be a wonderful mother, and I hope you really get to enjoy it. So thank you so much for watching. Don't get spooked, and I will see you next time. Bye.